Humanity has an expiration date. This is going to be part 1 of 7 because it's just going to be me talking, and I am not that pretty. So I know you don't want to listen to that all that long. I have a page on Facebook. I started back in 2012 when I first realized the problem in the United States. We have a brain drain that somehow the youth in this country was out on the streets protesting in the new civil rights movement called Black Lives Matter. The Republicans in the House at that time, while not racist, because you have to actually have an intent to be racist, certainly went out of their way to look at with the media's help. Yet 2012, Obama won. I believe he got 56% of the vote, and the House stayed Republican. This told me two things. The youth and liberals no longer understood that the legislative branch had a role in government because probably since the 90s, the Senate and the House has been very dysfunctional. I don't even think they've passed many actual budgets, which is like fundamental to running the government. President Barack Obama, this is number 2, had something no other politician ever had before, an excuse. 1994, President Bill Clinton lost the House and the Senate, just like Obama lost the House. First time in 4 decades, the House was in Republican hands. The House under Newt Gingrich was arrogant, just like in 2010, the Tea Party was arrogant. And while President Bill Clinton suffered an embarrassing loss, he was forced to face the reality that voters didn't like either his policies or him personally. He had to deal with the new reality in Congress. He had to look and decide, what can he get through Congress? Because in order to have a legacy, you have to get things through Congress. So, I dislike Bill Clinton. Much of what he did, especially for those first 2 years, was disgusting and very inept. However, once the Republicans got in Congress, they had control of his purse strings and the economy started to do better, and he had a great 6 years left. Okay, so I give him credit for that. He allowed the Republicans to do it, and he owned it because he signed them. So, he got the credit because he is one man, and Congress is 535 individuals. It's a lot harder to give a Senate, like an entity credit. Barack Obama faced the same thing in 2010. He just lost the House, however, so it wasn't exactly that devastating that he still had the Senate. But he faced basically the same thing, and he didn't deal with it as well. And I believe he honestly did think, if you disagree with the policies, it was because you were a racist, a bigot, whatever you want to pull out of your hat. That was a mistake, because the Constitution has checks and balances. He was arrogant, and if anyone raised concerns, he dismissed them, saying, "You were a bigot, racist, white supremacist, all right." This led him to be unwilling to listen to the will of the voters who might have seen him personally likable, even wanted him to succeed, but as we saw in 2010, did not like either his arrogance or his policies. That was me. I honestly thought he was a different politician in 2008. By 2010, I realized he was arrogant. I did not vote for him, but I was fine with him being president at that time. Not after 2010. Although I did still hope that he would grow into the job. He did not. He did not have to face what Bill Clinton did because he had the excuse of racism. It was clear early on President Barack Obama would only listen to one group, and that group was unwilling to tell him the truth. That the president is not a dictator. In the end, he is probably the weakest of the 3 branches, at least as far as domestic goes, in government, even though he is the one that gets the blame or the credit for the country's health. Usually. The reason why he didn't get credit was because of the fact that he didn't do anything. He couldn't get anything through Congress, and so therefore, while the economy was doing better, he didn't get credit for it. That makes perfect sense to me. Evidently, it doesn't to many other people. 435 House members control the purse strings. 100 Senate members must approve House actions along with its own powers to approve judges and foreign treaties that are all worked out by the executive branch, Barack Obama. The president, in the end, has one vote, and it only matters after those 535 members have had their say. He has three choices: sign, veto, or let it become law, but not sign it. Earlier, I mentioned the Facebook page. I call it living in an insane world, because that was exactly how this world looked to me in 2012. I often joke that they say if you think you're the only sane one in a room, it's a good sign you're crazy. I've decided I'd rather be crazy because I see how others around me act, how they treat others, and I couldn't treat people this way. I would not be able to live with myself, and in the end, that's the only person you can't escape from. This page, I only do posters on. I can be verbose, as you will see today. I use the posters to force me to narrow down my argument. Two of the posters, they call them memes, I guess, today, but anyway, I'd like to discuss today because it deals with the real problem we have. The first one basically says humanity has an expiration date. They'll die out. They can tell of hardship, try to put into laws, methods to check the tendency for future generations to cause chaos from ignorance caused by arrogance. Over time, new ideals take over, lessons that change how these efforts, made from wisdom, are understood today. They make small changes, going with the assumption, what could one small change do? They don't see the big picture. What was seen in total as a symphony, an orchestra, now becomes conflicting. It looks like a mishmash based upon whether or not you have power, you have money, you have influence. It's no longer about right and wrong. It just seems capricious, hypocritical. A problem, once fixed, reappears, and no one thinks to look in the past for answers, since that would mean giving up what we took in arrogance. Two is much the same. It basically says all the same things, but the bit at the end is different. A problem once fixed reappears because the societal rule put in place to compensate for humanity's amnesia is removed. The cycle can be slowed. The question is, can it be stopped? Earth is a place of testing, and humanity has not yet passed that test. All of this I did with the ideal of the Constitution of the United States. It's an argument that I've made in the past on videos. It was like a symphony, with all the parts working together, the checks and balances, and total was to stop future generations from acting in a mob-like way to tear a country apart.